8 minutes after the hour. That's really when we start kind of getting the show going here. So, Dave, would you mind
Sorry,
hitting the rear? Okay. All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming to our last meeting of the year. It's been a lot of meetings, believe it or not, since the Americas group started, and I think it was May timeframe. So appreciate everybody continuing to join us and adding value every meeting. Today we're lucky. We've got a lot of celebrities in the house. We got Dan the Man Simerman. He's gonna talk all things Touchpoint, assembly, and anything else he can conjure up, I'm sure. And then we've got Phylo, and we've got Eric Hopp. So all these celebrities here, I'm honored. So thank you very much, you guys. So Dan, I want to let you kind of lead, because I know it's later in the time of day. So if you need to, give it a go and kind of just give us kind of your take on your programs and your approach, and like I said, you got the floor on this one. So you ready?
Yeah, totally. Hey everyone. Woo! Happy to be here. Thanks for setting some time aside. It's great to kind of finally peek my head out and be a little more vocal about what I've been doing for the last 2 years. I know oftentimes it kind of seemed like I wasn't doing anything, or maybe it was kind of like unclear, but now it's kind of really out in the open. So I'm happy to be more vocal and share it. And I think it's also very important that we talk about kind of what we're doing and why we're doing it as a group, not like something the foundation is doing, but really, even as we're starting to see right now, which is incredible, is like every day there's a new project that's just showing up on Twitter and is building its own community. And this is something that we've never seen before. This has really been what I've been advocating for years. So just to kind of give a background, right? We just announced Assembly, and Assembly is really IOTA's foray into smart contracts and really into ecosystem building. And what I really want to talk about today is a little bit about how we got here, the opportunity ahead of us, what Assembly is, what Touchpoint is inside of that, kind of some of the workings going on behind the scenes, and then kind of wrap that all into kind of a general idea about this market.
Oh. Uh-oh. Did we lose him? Can you hear me, or is it just me?
Can I hear you?
Okay, can you hear Dan?
Dan's at the beach again.
Dan, we can't hear you, man.
I could take over, but I don't know anything.
Yeah. Dan, we lost you.
Where did I?
You're back.
Where did I lose y'all? Oh man. Okay, hold on. Let me try. Okay, this should be better. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, this is good. Sorry, I'm gonna just stay off the Wi-Fi. So kind of was launching into like the opportunity ahead of us. Being a market leader and what that means. Kind of what's happening, some of the workings that are happening behind the scenes. And then I'm going to probably say some controversial things about why it doesn't work to just focus on enterprise. Don't kill me. Don't at me either. Why attracting capital is really important, and then really being a team player in the industry. When I started working at the foundation almost 3 years ago, we had a very different strategy for a different market, right? So we were really focusing on how do we get big partners on board, because the idea was that if we get more partners on board, then we're going to become a global standard. But I think what that was kind of lacking a little bit was the context of what it means to be a leader in this space and to win in this space. I don't mean win as in like winner take all, because I don't think that there's going to be a winner take all. But I think just, even having a voice in this space. And I think that obviously you need to be talking to all the world governments. You need to be talking with the big companies. But if you're ignoring the real meat and potatoes of what's happening in this space because you think it's a scam, and I'm not saying we were doing that, but I think that was just sort of like a common, concern was like, oh, if we talk about DeFi, people won't take us seriously, or oh, if we don't talk about NFTs, if we talk about NFTs, people will think we're a scam. And like my take is like I've got two thoughts on that. Like my first thought is, all this activity is happening on the biggest network right now, which is Ethereum for all this network activity, and they straddle all worlds. So to say that like people consider Ethereum as a whole a scam is kind of ridiculous in and of itself. And that kind of is someone, I don't know if someone's going in and out. I don't know if that's me, but I keep hearing a beep.
That's just guys coming. That's just, you're going to keep hearing that. That's
Okay,
people
cool,
coming
cool.
into the call. Yeah.
Cool. I just want to make sure I wasn't losing it. So that's kind of the first thing. And then the second premise is like, and this is something that I really want to, I think we need to educate ourselves a bit more as a community, but I also think we just need to also acknowledge that like, when we say that like, real world adoption versus crypto adoption, like that's a very 2017 mindset. Like we're running into an environment where like DeFi is permeating the real world now. NFTs are becoming real, quote unquote. So it's kind of like saying, the internet's a scam because there's some scammy internet like websites on the internet, right? Like I think we're past the point now that that I think it's a little hard to classify things that simply. So with that in mind, what I think we're starting to see right now, and I think how IOTA is positioning ourselves, which is incredibly exciting, is that now, because we have smart contracts and we're developing a architecture that's actually, as far as I'm aware, kind of similar to what Ethereum is proposing in terms of like the first layer and then the middleware, which is kind of like all the second layer scaling solutions. We're proposing this with Nakamoto consensus on a DAG, which is quite novel and unique, and really puts us in a very, I think, strong position for the next 12, 24 months. And remember, this is a marathon, not a sprint. So we have something now that I think we've never had before. And this is something that when we were out formulating assembly, like going out, raising money with Dom and going out and getting partners. And I kind of share a little bit about. I think Dom has talked about this publicly, but like, one of our primary goals was like we wanted to bring in, and I'm going to be jumping around a lot, so just stop me at any point, or if I'm not making any sort of sense, also tell me. But I think I'm making sense so far.
You're good. You're good, man.
Okay, cool. So there's a couple really exciting opportunities ahead of us. The first is that now we are at a level playing field with the other competitors in this space. And now that we're going to have an EVM compatible smart contract platform that's living on layer 2 on IOTA, and we could conceivably become the primary kind of architecture for distributed ledgers and smart contracts and Solidity based applications in general. We're expanding, and I know people hate to use the word Cambrian explosion, but it's like we are now in a position where everyone's not just reliant on the foundation, right? Like you don't have to come to a central group and go, hey, can I do this? Is this okay? Can I do that? Right? It's like, okay, here's the tooling. Let's build it together. So now we're kind of at these early stages where, okay, now we're thinking about all the infrastructure. So do we have all of the, DEXs? Do we have the, on-chain MPC, custody type platforms? Do we have, financial primitives? These are all, we're kind of in this early beginning stage. And I think this is a very exciting place to be. That's kind of like the first thing. The second thing is that now I think a lot of projects have agency, and there are people on this call that are building projects out in the open. So now there's new capital opportunities. You can not only get a grant like in the past, but now we've got access to other builders or investing groups. They want to allocate to startups on the application layer. We now also have an opportunity to launch your own token. So now inside of that, you can become self-sufficient and self-reliant very quickly. So I think these are all elements and ingredients that really explode participation. I think they bring on more innovation onto a chain, and I think that they also bring more talent, right? So I and again, this is a controversial opinion. Great that we're talking to big companies, but like hoping that a big company uses IOTA is not going to be the way that a million independent developers are going to come and build on us. Shoot me, but that's just kind of my take. And I'm happy to be more vocal about that. Like again, super happy with all the partners that we have, but I think that like we just need to think broader, and that's what we're doing with Assembly, which is awesome. So now we can, I think the best of both worlds is that we create a very vibrant startup community where people are building their own smart contract applications, building their own token use cases, building them on assembly. And then I think the best case is that, some of our really big, maybe corporate partners, as they become more familiar and more comfortable with smart contracts and with decentralized technologies, they, maybe partner with these groups, maybe they acquire these groups. And I think that's kind of like a really great marriage of the two. But I think now we're in and I can tell you kind of living in both worlds, kind of like in the like crux of the industry, but also kind of like living as a degenerate, crypto trader. People are finally taking notice and they're talking about us and they're asking, oh, what's IOTA up to now? What's with this smart contract thing? Can I get involved? Can I participate? And for anyone who's been following in the last couple of years, it kind of hasn't been that way. It's kind of been, I think the perspective has kind of been like we're the outsiders, and that's really changing. So I think we're really in a very different position. I think we're in a really strong position going into 2022, and kind of a last component on there is that now that we have backers that are supporting assembly, now they're talking we're not just a lone wolf anymore. Like we now have people advocating for us and talking to us and be like, oh, have you seen IOTA lately? Are you building on it now? Do you want to build? We've got a portfolio of 100 different D apps. Now they're all being incentivized to build on assembly. They're all looking at IOTA in a different way. So it's just kind of a multiplier effect, and it's really, really, really kind of incredible. So I think that's kind of how we've got here. And I think the opportunity ahead of us is just like getting out of our own ways and no longer being a bottleneck, right? So now people don't have, again, like people don't have to come to us and ask if they want to build. They can just whip out a smart contract, raise their own token, and build. And then if we want to get into like Touchpoint a little bit, Touchpoint is really cool. So Touchpoint is, so when I was going out and raising for assembly, I was picking up some signals and some interesting kind of strategies around how ecosystems were being built, and some of them were very novel, right? So it wasn't just like an incubator and accelerator model, right? There were these kind of groups of investor collectives that were all kind of banding together to support the Solana ecosystem or support the Polkadot ecosystem. So the thought behind Touchpoint was, what does a decentralized open environment look like where you're helping builders, investors, and experts, right, subject matter experts, come together so they can effectively allocate capital, information, and connections. So really at the heart of what Touchpoint is that Touchpoint's a way for us to ensure that the first, maybe the first 100, maybe the first 200 projects that are building on assembly are really supported both economically and non-economically. So maybe there's a team that is very technically adept, but maybe they need help in marketing and branding and community building, or perhaps they've got an incredible product, they've got the community down, and they need some advice and maybe some connections on how to raise capital. Or maybe they've just launched. Maybe they didn't even come from the assembly IOTA ecosystem. Maybe they were an Avalanche project. Maybe they started one chain and now they're multi-chain, and they want to be plugged into our ecosystem and be connected to all the right people. So that's really a method. So the name Touchpoint came about because I kept being in meetings and I kept being like, oh, like we can be a Touchpoint for this and we can be a Touchpoint for that. And I was like, oh wait, that's a great name. So the kind of idea is that there's a mesh of individuals, and right now they're part of the foundation, but hypothetically anyone could really become a Touchpoint. And what these touch points do is that they are kind of the routing system. So we keep track of like all of the needs of all of those three actors, the builders, the investors, and the experts. So we at any one time know, okay, we've got 30 builders right now. Here's a general idea of what they're looking for. Here's specifically what each one's needs are. and then we can connect them with other builders, right? So it's like, oh, we know that this partner is looking for a liquidity provider or is looking for a, someone that's building a decentralized bridge. Let's make that connection. Or maybe they're looking to expand into Singapore. So we can actually connect them with an investment group in Singapore, and then maybe they decide to invest, maybe they don't, but now they have access to a whole community there. So touch points are kind of like this like paramilitary group that kind of like it like knows what's happening and then can direct information down, right? So down to all of those three groups, but then up and then across. So we synthesize and go, okay, so here's some general trends that we're finding. We're finding maybe that this set of tooling is really effective. We can share that to the rest of the group. So Touchpoint is something that you have to apply to. We want to keep it. We want to keep it really. What's the word? Intentional. And the first wave of projects that we're looking for right now are really any project that is kind of crypto centric, right? Crypto native. So niche use cases that maybe are using a blockchain, we'll look at case by case. But the idea is, what do we, if we bring someone into Touchpoint, is the person that or the group that comes after them going to be positively impacted by the work that the group behind them did, right? So that one group might come and say, hey, we're creating a whole tooling suite that's like Truffle for Ethereum, or maybe we're porting this Ethereum suite of tools to Assembly. Great, let's bring you on. Let's make sure that you succeed so that the next person we bring on can use those tools, right? So that's kind of how we're thinking is this kind of compounding effect. And we've already started, I think we have like 30 or 40 applicants already. We've already started bringing on some early people. We've had some really great interviews, and everyone saw that Reuters article about the $100 million ecosystem fund. That's also going to be really, really powerful, right? So I've been on the phone with a couple of our backers already, and what's really great is that they're not what's the word, like I think how we did the distribution is such that it really is like we wanted to make sure that it was super fair, that the majority of the like of the supply was going to the community, was going to holders, going to builders with like the DAO and everything. So I think that we created a pretty good balance between those two. So what these builders are looking for is, or what these investment groups are looking for is, they're looking for a we were I think Don might have mentioned this, but we were super careful that like it's not just people looking for a quick buck. Like all of these groups like GSR and LD Capital and Signum Capital, like they want to build with us, right? They want to help our community grow. They want to connect us with other groups in their portfolio. So it's and they want to expand and broaden our reach to whatever geographies they're in. So that's incredibly exciting, and I think this is kind of like the tip of the iceberg in participation. I've got a bunch more stuff, but I could stop there if anyone has any questions. Anyone wants to ask me anything?
Yeah, well, I mean, I have a question, but I mean, so far it's been really great, Dan. Are these funds that you're working with, the groups that you're working with, are they do they have dedicated team members that are going to work with you at Touchpoint, or are they I don't know, are they assigning a warm body from each one of these groups, or how's that work?
Some of them will. Some of them I'll like. Some of them will have someone dedicated. A lot of them like to use Telegram, and we're in Discord,
Yeah,
so it's like
right. Okay.
it'll be a little tough to bridge. But like we'll always have their ear. So like GSR is just off the phone with, and they're like, whenever you're ready, we can bring our team members in and we can connect. So
Okay, cool.
I would say I'll probably say it'll be a hybrid. The other thing that that isn't like super clear right now, but I think is really exciting, is that I've got a list. Like I don't think many people know this, but like I'm a super geek on like crypto Twitter. So I scan and spy for like all new projects, like new talent, like new opportunities to collaborate with people. So I have a list of like I don't know, like 50 or 60 other like fund sources. So that could be smaller funds, DAO-based funds, distributed venture groups. And those are going to eventually, I think, become partners as well. Not partners, but like they'll become part of that kind of funding resource. So, at the end of the day, there'll be many, many, many opportunities to choose from. And it won't just be a select target group of people. So it really is about having as much opportunity and as much available resources to connect anyone with anyone, really.
Great. Anybody else have any questions for Dan before he goes on his next round? I mean, he's been doing a great overview. Anybody have any questions about Touchpoint or anything he said so far?
Yeah, I have a question regarding, who can help with like token design, and are the VCs, are they looking into, what kind of, obviously these are all early stage companies, right? But are they, like what level of maturity are they looking for? But the main question is really the tokenomics design for the different projects. I think that's where I wonder who can help.
Yeah, it's a great question. So there are going to be some groups, and I can kind of navigate that. And when we have our weekly Touchpoint meetings, like I can give a little more context. There are going to be some VC groups that are a little more, I don't want to say like buttoned up, but there are going to be some that like, that we have really close, we have close relationships with all of them, but like there are some that we'd feel more comfortable, like, tapping on the shoulder and saying, look, we've got a group, they're just getting their white paper done, and they've got some questions on token economics. Are you able to help? So some of the funds themselves would actually love the opportunity if you kind of get started, and bring something to them, then they would love to help guide it and shape it and mold it because they have experience with that. But then the third category, which we're going to cultivate over time, is that third group called experts, right? So the experts category in Touchpoint is a group of anything, right? So it could be a branding expert, it could be a marketing or design expert, it could be a token economics expert. And generally the idea is that these individuals are incentivized to be part of the environment because they can become advisors to your projects. So if you are, even if you're not in Touchpoint, but if you are about to launch and you're looking for someone to help with token economics, maybe we have a list of 10 people and then one of them is a good fit, and then you bring them on as an advisor, and in exchange, either you pay them directly or maybe they get part of your token, a small part as part of being an advisor, but that's really up to you to negotiate. But the general idea is that there's multiple avenues to that. So you could, we'll maybe even have some articles. We have a knowledge repository that we're building out, so we might have some articles on how to best maybe get started, and then based on kind of your profile, and as we're talking, maybe we decide it's best to just get you directly in front of a fund and get their feedback if they're looking to participate and collaborate. Or maybe we find an independent actor, or it's possible an expert could also be defined as like an accelerator and incubator. So if you remember earlier, I said like, I'm not the biggest fan of like having an accelerator or incubator be a bottleneck, because the idea of this program is like it's open ended. The idea isn't that you go through this for 4 weeks and then you're done and then we kind of kick you out the door. It's more like an open environment with no necessary end. So you can hypothetically be in Touchpoint for as long as you'd like. And then there's a compounding effect. So the more value that you get and the more success you have, now hopefully you bring that to other members in the community.
Cool. I like it. Very good. Anybody else want to chime in before Dan goes on to his next segment? Okay. I mean, I've been working with Dan a little bit on, and so far it's been great. So it's exciting. It's early days, but it's just what we need at the right time, I think. So excited about it. Okay, Dan, take her away.
Yeah, I'll keep going. So I think what's awesome, and I really have to acknowledge the community, really all of us, because I think we're such fast learners, and we're like the perfect mix of technical and eager. And you look at a lot of different other communities, and like there, I won't name names, but like you'll find some communities that like they've got a lot of money but they don't have good tech, or they've got good tech but they don't really know like the crypto game. And I mean that like I mean that in the sense that like they don't really know how the behind the scenes of the industry really works, or maybe they have capital, but they really don't know what to do with it. So I think or they have to, like, I always call it sugar water, but it's like they have to pay their way to people building on them. And look, to some extent, that strategy can work. Like, look at Avalanche. Like, Avalanche is now crushing it. They've got huge, their TVL is off the charts. Their volume is insane, and that's because they, got kickstarted and they built up a support system for themselves. So all that's to say, I think what's really exciting is that we've got so many, and I mean, you don't have to listen to me, like you can see it, but you can also talk to Greg and hear it. There's so many builders and technical and like I'd say like entrepreneurial groups in IOTA that just want to build, and they've been, I think, waiting for a long time to do it. And I think what's going to be all of our like the job of everyone is to really be like on the forefront of what's happening, right? So I'm talking about like what's happening in DeFi, what's happening in the world of NFTs, like what's happening in play to earn gaming. I have a thesis that the next billion users are going to probably come from from gaming, right? So like like the next wave of gamers will probably be using blockchain in some form or another, not even be aware of it. Um, so yeah, I think it's just kind of like being on top of that as a community and no longer, I don't know, maybe either being a little afraid of it or just not really understanding it, and maybe being too focused in other areas that we think are the definitions of success. I think if we collectively broaden our idea of what success is to include both enterprise and these more kind of like startup, crypto native use cases, I think that's really how we're gonna, I think that's how we're gonna win. And what I mean win is that just like be one of the contenders in this space, right? Like it's not a zero sum game. There'll probably be a lot of chains out there, but I think that's really going to be important to our success.
And if I can
And
jump
again,
in there, then
yeah, sure.
I think one important thing is that on the one hand, I think the IOTA or let's say Touchpoint needs to guide some of this and educate the community also on the opportunity, right? Because let's face it, DeFi, for example, was not on our radar until a few months ago, right? And
Yep.
so I think on the one hand, forms of education are good. And then the other aspect, I believe, and I'm not the guy writing the code here, but I think technical guidance, yeah? We did that really well at Microsoft, right? Where we had teams that would help with technical architecture guidance to help people build and make the optimal use and stay clear of risk, yeah, as they were building.
Absolutely. And that's a very important, I mean, we already have some groups that are building out like DeFi education centers. So I think there's also maybe something similar for NFT. So that's absolutely something like I will spam the hell out of all of you like with links. So like be careful if that's what you want. But yeah, that's again, that's something for us all to just get more comfortable with. And I think if we collectively like, just remove this idea that like this isn't the real world, I think we'll all like this is something that I've learned over time. And it's kind of weird, right? Like the sometimes the crypto world can be like, I've talked to a couple of people about this, but like it can be like masked in an air of like a lack of seriousness or like corniness or childishness, so that sometimes you miss really great opportunities because they don't seem serious. Right. I think a lot of people felt that way with NFTs. I think a lot of people feel that way with gaming. They don't think it's serious because there's a use case that looks funny, or maybe, maybe for example, like, there's a PFP, which is called a profile pic, NFT group. Like Bored Apes is an example, Punks is an example, and there's one called Doodles, right? And the the co-founder of Doodles, his Ethereum name is like poopy.eth, right? Like are you really gonna take a project like that seriously? Like the head guy has a pseudonym like Poopy, like, but he's serious and he's getting tapped by Facebook in the metaverse to like run their Web3 group, and he declines. And like this idea that like companies aren't taking this seriously is completely false. Like that, like everyone's looking at Web3, everyone is taking smart contracts serious now. their tolerance of risk could be different, right? So like a bank might be saying that they're interested in blockchain, but like it doesn't mean they're going to be implementing any sort of tokenization framework for the next like decade, right? So I think hitting the low-hanging fruit and making sure that there are lots of independent developers that are building so that the next wave of innovation happens on IOTA. I think that's so important. Like I think that's how you really lay ground in the protocol wars. That's how you bring value onto the network, both literally and like literally in terms of like, you know, token value, not the value of IOTA token, but like how you get value locked in. So assets being locked onto the network is really important, but also just value, you know, like why does an independent developer pick one network over another, right? Why does a user go to one network over another, right? It has to do with user experience. It has to do with the level of activity that's already on it. It has to do with incentives. So those all just need to be taken into account and played. And I think we're already doing an incredible job. I think we're all picking it up really fast, and I'm having some awesome conversations, and I'm super excited for where we are kind of leading into Q1.
Yeah, it's crazy times, crazy fun. For a lot of us who've been around for a long time, it's so cool to finally see all the pieces coming together. To be able to like kind of start realizing what we've known a lot of the potential could be, and it's going to be killer with assembly, and you know, we just need a couple more months under our belt, and going to change the world. So fun stuff.
Yeah, and I think we're all going to grow together. And like what's so cool to me is like now we see like Sooniverse, and we're seeing Kami Labs, and like now or even I forget the name, like iBot, the PFP. But like now we're seeing groups that are creating their own followings and creating their own communities, and you know, now we've got Shimmer that has almost like 10,000 followers on Twitter, and or like 20,000, and Assembly is like I can tell you, because like we've done analysis a little bit, like Shimmer and Assembly are even bringing in new faces. So
Yeah,
now people that like so like people that didn't even know about what IOTA was, now they're checking out Assembly and checking out Shimmer, and now that's introducing them to the IOTA ecosystem. So I'll nip this in the bud right now. Like whenever I hear people say like, you know, is Assembly and Shimmer are going to take away from IOTA, it's like no. It's adding dimension. It's adding more utility to the network. It's adding more utility to the token, which has always been my, you know, goal from day one. So I you know, whenever I hear that in the channels, I get the concern, but I don't see that. I only see this as adding.
You're bringing out new faces into our world, which is what we need. So I think it's awesome. So
yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, you were kind of drifting there. You're getting fractal there, but you're better now. Cool. Did you have any more? Did you want to keep riffing, or should we ask for more input from folks, or what do you think, Dan?
Yeah, if anyone wants to ask me another question, happy to answer, and then I could riff for a couple more minutes.
Okay, cool. Anybody else? You guys want to chime in?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Cool. So Dan, I kind of agree on your point that corporates view crypto as being a bit childish still and lack of credibility. But isn't securing corporate partners and actually showing that Web3 is better than Web2 for the corporate solutions the way to overcome that, as opposed to building non-bespoke kind of off-the-shelf software through the community? And
so I mean, show me evidence that talking to a major company is going to bring more. Show me that is going to have an impact on our. How do I want to frame this? Our stance in the market relative to our competitors. Like, I'd love to see evidence, because like so far, I just like it, again, it's like EBSI is incredible, right? Like being the infrastructure for Europe is incredible, but if that's our only mechanism, we're not going to bring new users. We're not going to bring innovative people that want to build their next great product or company. That's not how this market works. And what's like, do we want to spend all of our time like doing one-off projects for one company? That doesn't really scale, right? So like that, like it only scales relative to how many people we hire into the foundation. And like, we don't want to hire 500 people to the foundation to build off like, enterprise projects. I think doing some of them is great, but is that really a model for success? I mean, you tell me.
Well, for success then, because to me, you're talking about lack of credibility. It's not taken seriously. That's because there's not any serious use cases, or in the use cases we have in the market, not IOTA in particular, are not any better than Web 2. I know it's an early piece of tech, but
so my take is that I don't think, again, it depends, right? Like, and maybe I should be clear in my language here. Not taking it seriously and not being ready to build on it is also like two separate things. So like, is it worth convincing a group that doesn't care about blockchain or doesn't want to build it, like years going through a procurement process? Or do you spend those 2 years building a framework so that 1 million people can pick up your tech and start using it today? People that want to build. And you like, what do you think?
Yeah, your point is correct, Dan. I agree with you, even though I'm more like the corporate enterprise guy from the past. Yeah. Your incentives of IOTA are simply not well aligned with those of a corporate that has an existing business model to optimize and try to prevent the future from happening for as long as possible. Yeah? So therefore, focusing now on building a new ecosystem, going into DeFi and NFTs and metaverse is from my point of view, the totally correct point of view, right? And yes, there are some corporates, let's say Dell, Intel, and so on. When I think about, let's say, oracles and maybe also smart contract infrastructure can be also very strategic and interesting, or stuff around sustainability. But when it comes to the typical industries, I agree that innovation in these companies happens at the pace of coastal erosion, and crypto is moving a little too fast for that.
Well, it's kind of like having an ice cream machine and then wanting to only like use it to make cheese, and then like feeling and then like saying, well, I like ice cream's really not real. Like we should like get people to want cheese. And it's like, well, but we can make this really great ice cream and people want it. Why don't we do that? And it's like, well, because it's not really like good, or it's not going to make us like serious because we're trying to be a serious cheese shop. It's like, then maybe we shouldn't have gotten an ice cream machine in the first place, right? Like that was a terrible analogy, but like the point is like the point is that like we also have to just be really cognizant of like the environment we're in, and like why is like, so here's another question for you all. Do you really think that the chain with the most activity at the end is probably going to be the one that the corporate partners are going to end up using at the end of the day? So like, this is something that I think people often overlook. So if we think that we're going to be able to like, attract, let's say 5 years from now, a group, like once corporations feel more comfortable with maybe using tokens, maybe there's more like, governance models around that. Do you think they're going to pick the ones that have more enterprise adoption, or do you think they're going to pick the ones that just generally are the best ones in the market, right? Like VSH versus Betamax, right? You're going to pick the one that at the end of the day has been chosen by the market. And right now the market is choosing chains based on how active they are, right? Like, and that's not to say that we still, I'll fight this to the death. Like, we still have the best architecture for enterprise and for industrial uses, no question, right? Like, you can't even use Ethereum public chain or Avalanche because most of them don't want to use a token for database applications. So in that sense, like, we shouldn't abandon that at all. Like, we definitely want to keep talking to them. We are best positioned for working with them, and like, I think that at the end of the day, they're going to see our architecture, and that's going to be the thing that wins them. However, if we don't take seriously the fact that the winner is going to be chosen by, how much activity is on the network, how much tokens are locked in it, like, if we're not cognizant of that fact, what's going to happen is that we're going to like kind of fade into oblivion, but like think that we're doing the right thing. You know what I mean? And I don't think we're doing that. But I think that's one avenue that we could have gone if we had just focused on strictly, non, token-based use cases or smart contract-based use cases, because there was a concern that, quote unquote, we wouldn't be taken seriously by big players.
That was me.
And I
think that's me who did that.
What I also say is, like in many cases, stuff that I'm working on, it's very relevant and interesting to work with corporations, yeah, because they own certain parts of an ecosystem that is hard to get into and so on, yeah. But I always say, look, let's be smart about what do we need these corporate partners to enable us to do, right? And let's not try to teach them on how tokenomics work and what crypto is and so on, yeah. But let's be very specific about what they need to do in order to remove a problem for them or create a new opportunity. But knowing that, we don't want to spend the next 5 years educating them on how a blockchain works and why the Tangle is different, but really being smart about working with these corporations. I mean, and I'm saying that as a consultant, right, who would like to educate people on stuff, but I much rather have a lot of people building stuff on IOTA.
Yeah, and look, like just there are a lot of like pragmatic people on this call. Like, let's just be pragmatic, right? Like that model doesn't scale when you're talking about like ecosystem growth, and that's kind of like the point of Touchpoint is like, you don't have to come to us, and like a Touchpoint isn't a funnel, right? Like you don't have to like get sign off from us to launch on Assembly. Instead, what it is that like if we have a set number of touch points, we can now interact with thousands of organizations, whereas in traditional sales, you can really only grow relative to how big your sales team is, right? So like calling up enterprise partners and being like, hey, do you want to build on this? Like that I think that we could do that in a targeted way, like again with EBSI and with a lot of the partners that we've had. I think that that's incredibly valuable, and I'm not discounting that at all. But I think that to really scale to another level of like billions of users and hundreds of thousands of independent developers, you need to just have all the tooling available and then make it really, really appealing to them to start building. Because guess what? Maybe they build the IoT startup on top that becomes the next big company. Or maybe they build, the machine economy company that in 4 years is now, taking the lead that then another group buys. So I think it's looking at both sides of that equation, because I think without that kind of innovation, then the big wins on the enterprise side maybe don't seem as significant, right? Like when you hear like an announcement like, companies doing $1 billion for IOTA network, like it sounds good, but then I think the issue that we've always had is like, we see that, but we don't really like, where's the tangibility there, right? Like, can I use the app? Can I see it happening? Like, I think in the past we've had all these announcements, and then there's just kind of been a feeling, okay, are they actually building on it? Like, I'd go out in public and I'd be like, hey, here's this thing, and people would even question me. They'd be like, are they really using the network? How can I know? So I think that's always just kind of been a weird thing for adoption. But if you've got 1,000 startups that are building on it, it's like, hey, like, where's the activity? Hey, look, here's TangleSwap building right now. Here's Kami Labs. Here's Sooniverse. Like, they can see it. It's tangible. And I think that just kind of adds to the excitement and the interest, and then people can touch it, and they can build their own DAOs, and then they can find more users, and they can build a community. It just has like this compounding effect. And I think if you do both, I think if you have that enterprise use, and we are again I think we are one of the most trusted brands in that space for that reason. I think those two can live harmoniously together. I really do.
So, you said it's a while back now, but so the phrase "build it and they will come," right? If Web3 is better than Web2, then the corporates will want it. If you can save Citibank 100 million a year by reducing the amount of audit work that needs to be done, just with a DLT, if you can do these things and make a better product than the mainstream right now, then they will come. And to me, it's like things like NFTs might push the market cap up. It might increase the token price, But why does a corporate that's not investing into take care about that at all? Like a clothes manufacturer doesn't want to own IOTA for the value of the token or for capital gain. A clothes manufacturer will want to work with IOTA if it makes their business more efficient, if it improves their business in a tangible way where it's worth the investment and the time. To me, I don't see why things like NFTs that push market prices up, things that I think IOTA is doing more now to push token prices up. How does that help?
No, it's not to push token prices up. It's literally that's the demand of why people want to use distributed networks, right? Like why fight against what market dynamics are asking for, right? Like what is the inherent value of that? That's a little unclear to me. Also, again, look at Adidas, look at Nike. They just bought NFT companies. So again, I think it might be a little outdated of a mindset to think that companies aren't looking at this. They are. There's just different levels of risk. And again, not to be a maxi, but like we also have to look at the underlying tech, right? Like NFTs are being, I think so, right? Like NFTs are looking to be used for like decentralized naming services, right? Like the underlying tech is being used for many different functions other than just like questionable art being sold at high prices. Same thing with DeFi, right? There are some really innovative financial instruments that are being built off the backs of these tools. So I think I don't think it's fair to say that it's so black and white. And this gets back to what I said earlier. Like I think that we will all miss out on opportunity if we're segmenting this world of like there's the real world and then there's the scam world where NFTs are happening. Like it won't do us any benefit thinking that way. And I think it's just a learning for us all.
I hear you, but like even what you've described there, if I may, even what you've described there, the two uses you've described there are Adidas buying an NFT. Two examples, sorry. Adidas buying an NFT company, which isn't really breaking into the mainstream. It's just Adidas buying an NFT company to sell NFTs. It's not any use case. And derivatives based on crypto, which is again investing based on the token price. It's not about doing something better than Web 2. It's just an investment vehicle. And that's both the examples there in a row. Because Adidas aren't doing NFTs because it's this fantastic thing. It's just a.
So what?
They're doing the same thing that OpenSea was already doing.
So what's your concern exactly? That if we build something that people want, it's going to be bad?
Or just the view that corporates that getting corporates isn't what will make IOTA change the world to be dramatic. It's not.
I don't.
It's not.
I really don't. I think that they will. I think they're absolutely part of the equation. But again, if we're not making things available, like there's a whole set of use cases. Again, this gets back to my primary thesis. If we're not supporting use cases, sorry, can someone go on mute?
Oh my
There's
god.
someone.
Yeah, sorry, guys.
Back in the back. If we're not supporting tooling applications and use cases that people are expecting in blockchains, guess what? Those next wave of corporate partners that want to use blockchain are going to ask us if we have those features, and we're going to say no, and then they're not going to use us at all. So again, this idea that to separate these two worlds between there's corporate and then there's all this other bullshit, like that is that to me is a complete fallacy. Like, I don't know about you, I was going out for years and trying to bring on people onto IOTA, and they asked if we had smart contracts, and we went no, and they went, okay, I'm going to use another network. And these were corporate partners. So again, this idea that like these two worlds are segmented, I don't believe that. I think that right now there are some groups that are only looking for database applications. There are some that maybe don't want token use cases. But again, look out like 4 or 5 years down the road. If we don't support these things, they're not going to pick us at all.
Yeah, just play to your strengths. Right now, corporate doesn't really know what it wants from blockchain. So just play to your strengths. Keep, they'll come around and they'll see, and they'll be asking for it soon enough.
Yeah, I have to agree with Dan. I think IOTA did one thing very well, and that is keeping out of the madness with the hypes. not initially, but eventually, and actually setting foot in the real world, right? Cooperating with governments, cooperating with banks, with the enemy for most tokens, right? And the same thing you see with corporate. We cannot keep those separate because they are part of the fucking real world. So setting them aside as irrelevant is stupid, especially because there's shitloads of money there. And if there's one thing that corporates want, is improve their bottom line. So if they see something that can improve their bottom line, they will jump on it like that. And that's probably what's already happening with the Adidas tokenization thing. Maybe it's a playground for them to see, okay, we see some things that we could do with that, but we need the knowledge, and therefore we buy this company to get the knowledge. And then all of a sudden they come out with some really cool aspects there, and then they are going to use that in the real world. But they're also going to be on the lookout for how can we make this more efficient, how can we make this cheaper. And every time you're talking about efficiency and cheapness and scalability, the first name that will come up is IOTA, because we have been looking at it from that viewpoint since day one. And that's going to be our big win in the long run, I think.
Exactly. Totally. And I can tell you firsthand what has been happening and what would have continued happening if we hadn't started kind of broadening our scope, right? So like, I'll talk to a custody platform, I'll talk to I'll talk to an exchange, I'll talk to a group, and they'll be like, oh, cool. Well, are you supporting the metaverse yet? Are you supporting NFTs yet? And we'd be like, no, but, we've got a government that, doesn't want to use tokens yet, but maybe they do in the future. Do you want to list us now? They'd be like, no, right? Because we're prioritizing what the market wants. And what the market wants is, these innovative tooling. Now, that's not to say that you just want to chase trends. That's not the point at all. But, now extrapolate that out to a company 3 years from now. What are they going to be looking at, right? They're going to have a quote unquote blockchain consultant that's going to come to them and be like, well, I've assessed it all, and the most network activity is happening on Avalanche and what's the other one? And Solana, because they've got the most applications, they've got the most engineers, they've got the most users. So we're going to pick Solana. They're not going to pick IOTA because one company is using it. They're going to pick whichever one has the big ecosystem with the most developers and the most activity. And it really is a balance of those two.
And if I could add just my 2 cents about DeFi into this whole conversation, I know that there's like a ton of people out there that think it's just all hand waving and moving, imaginary tokens around between getting random, like crazy high yields and all that kind of stuff. But it's fundamentally like the purpose of it is working towards supporting this tokenization of the economy. You can't have this tokenized economy without, native finance instruments that work on those tokens, allowing people to, buy, sell, loan, trade, do whatever they want to with those tokenized assets. So all of that structure has to be built first before the wide scale adoption of like a tokenized economy can take place.
Totally agree.
So really, like, and I got like 10 more minutes. I got to jump on another call. But again, like my mindset on this is like, look, and if at any point it made it sound like I think enterprise adoption is bad, like not at all. Like we want EBSI, we want these big governments using us, but like looking 5 years out, what's going to be the thing that we have 1 million independent developers, using Assembly for? Is one enterprise company going to go out and get us 1 million developers? Like probably not. So we want those groups, but it's just a multi-pronged strategy. And what I'm even noticing on my own now is that I talk to groups now and they're like, oh, you're focused on X, Y, and Z. Great, let's talk. When I used to go out and say, oh, you're just focused on IoT, that's cool. Like, do you have any use cases right now? Or that's cool. Like, can we, tokenize an IoT, like whatever. But it wasn't like, it was just like giving one piece of the picture. So what we're already seeing is independent developers that are coming on and building, and I think that is how we become a fixture in this next economy. Is that 3 years from now we can say, we've got hundreds of thousands of independent developers that are building out tooling. It's created a multiplier effect. And now people don't even need to come to the foundation to ask if they can build. Now they're just going out and building because they hear that IOTA is a core part of IoT infrastructure or a core part of the metaverse. And again, I think that all of these things are converging to a point where like it's going to kind of be like, hey, do you support X, Y, and Z? And if we had said, oh, well, we only provide Z, they're going to go, okay, I'm going to look for another platform that provides X and Y. And I think that's just inevitable.
I agree. I think the companies, the way you get into companies anymore, they change from within, and they change from the developers that introduce things from tools that they get used to and they experiment with on their own. And that's how you get inside these enterprises. When you're trying to do something that's new, you can't hit them with a frontal assault with a traditional corporate pitch saying, hey, look, all this traditional stuff that you're using from all these other big players. Well, we've got something that's different. That it top down doesn't work. It's got to come from the developers and the coders that actually, at the end of the day, are who the executives and the management teams rely on to get a job done, right? And those are the guys now. It's a whole different sale now, in my perspective. So, as some ex-Microsoft guy used to say, developers, and
exactly.
I think we change from within, and we do that with the developers and providing the tools, the reliable tools and infrastructure tools that these guys need to, and applications, dApps and so forth that allow these guys to be productive, so that they can say, hey, look, I can solve this problem internally at our company. Look at what IOTA has. It can take us from A to B to Z, but it doesn't use any of the big players. But I've been using it on my own, and this stuff works. That's how I think it goes. But
what I also like actually about this whole thing is, we don't need to actually create a market. We don't need to educate the world about smart contracts and so on. Other people have already done that to some point, to some degree, right? And I think it's pretty clear also in the market where the fallacies of existing architectures are. Yeah? And it's now pretty easy, I guess, if we don't really screw up marketing. It's not really that hard to position assembly and IOTA right in the bullseye there to say, look, this is why we are different and why you should take a look at it. And then, of course, everything has to hold up in terms of documentation, the ecosystem, and so on, right?
Yep, for sure. Well, Dan,
could I ask Dan one question real quick, just back to Touchpoint? I know that there's this, there's a ton of builders taking, IOTA, kind of the whole ecosystem by storm right now. We're all trying to get in and start building cool things. But I think that there's going to be a huge bottleneck in auditing all of the smart contracts and the projects that come out. Mm-hmm. Do you have you been in contact with anyone who's, in the auditing world, or any groups that may want to prioritize IOTA, projects?
Totally, that's a great point. So we do know a couple of good ones. So like Halborn, I'm very close with. Trail of Bits, I believe we know. So that's going to be a problem regardless. I think that the timelines are like 3 to 6 months for contract auditing.
Yeah.
So what we could, so like the second that we get them in there, I'll hit up Halborn, and that we can start we can start building those relationships. But that's true. So if anyone actually knows any independent contract auditors, hook it up and we can talk to them. But yeah, ideally we will have multiple auditing firms. But I think for the projects, for a lot of the use cases that we have, I think that they probably have templatized reviews, right? There's some groups that I know that are building entire privacy protocols, and those were novel. So it was, it took a little more time. So maybe depending on the use case, it'll be a little shorter. But yes, the bottleneck is always real. I can tell you that.
Yeah, I've seen it myself. Yeah.
Yeah. Has Touchpoint thought about, or Assembly, or any of the groups kind of in the IOTA Ecosystem thought about putting together like an audit team, either with the IF or with Touchpoint or with something like that, and kind of supporting that audit team to like prioritize IOTA projects and get things out the door?
Yeah,
Is that an idea?
If anyone wants to apply as an auditor or an audit company, let's do it. But I will say that there is something to be said for like, there is a at least my perspective is that like people are looking for names, right? So it's like, the reason you audit with a well-known company is because you trust that auditing company. So that would require like creating a brand and then getting some cachet in the industry, which might not be the easiest thing to do.
So one way to handle that is to hit one of the big players like Halburn and say, hey, look, approach them with let's say a nascent group like from our Touchpoint group, right? What Camus is speaking about and saying, hey, look, we'd like to help work with you to establish an ICP branch, smart contract auditing system. You guys don't have the bodies. We have bodies for you. Can we actually work together and actually kind of like build the branch and go through all that? And you guys can use this as a subcontract relationship or something like that. Sometimes that can work. An idea.
Good ideas.
Any other questions? Any other thoughts? Any ideas or feedback for me? Totally an open book.
Can I have some of that ice cream?
Next question. Let's see. Let's.
You said, hi Dan, hi everybody.
Yeah.
Hey.
You said you started to providing already the funding, or it's something coming next year for assembly venture?
No, we have a lot of people that are looking to already write checks to projects. So I think for all of us, it's really just going to be about like polish. So like one thing that I noticed, which is like, again, a good problem to have, I find that our tech is really strong, our strategy is really strong, and sometimes, and this will just, I think, kind of grow out of kind of like you'll see Near or you'll see Solana or you see Polkadot have like a level of maybe like similarity, so it's part of the ecosystem. We might decide we don't want to do that. We do. I think branding is probably an area for us all to that we all could like help with. But other than that, that's inconsequential. So, but venture arms do look at that. So like they like to see the whole brand. But other than that, like my advice to you, if you're on the phone and you're thinking about starting something, like put a deck together. If you got some code, show a Git link, and we can start setting up those conversations with these funds, because we built some really good relationships with them. And again, like that was you have to remember 2 years ago, I couldn't even like get on the phone with a fund group because they like for one reason or another, maybe something happened in our past, or IOTA had a certain reputation for whatever reason. But now like they're looking at us in a very different way now. So they want to collab, they want to partner, they want to help. And we've opened up a lot of doors with this assembly launch. So access to groups in Asia, even groups in North America, and we have to remember is that this is like smart money. So you could hypothetically just ask for a grant or ask for something from the DAO and then launch a token. You could, if you want, raise capital from a VC like Signum or GSR or Jump, and then you just have to think, okay, what's the value of working with them? Now I have access to their portfolio. Maybe they can help me in the region in Singapore or China or Korea. And that's really, really valuable, right? It creates like a compounding effect. So yes, as send me a deck and I will send it to the right people. I'm your go-to. So just ping me or Dom.
Cool. Dan, you said we're probably hitting the mark for you to have to take off, but this has been great. Nice fluid conversation. You hit all the marks. Really appreciate the interactive conversation. Anybody else have any last minute questions before we let him go to his next meeting?
Thanks for sparring with me, Dan.
Yeah, of course. No, this
Sparring is good.
No, I don't even consider it sparring. Like I love conversations like this. Like we need to have these conversations. So as like Greg knows, like Greg and I have been on calls. Like I'm super honest. So and I'm not always right, by the way. Like I've just been like my only qualification for speaking on this is that I've been like behind the scenes long enough to be kind of dead inside, so I can I don't know, like I just have like a unique perspective, but like again, like I'm not the be all end all by any stretch.
Cool.
Funds be interested in investing into meme tokens like Shima Inu?
Maybe. I mean, I think meme tokens are kind of seeing their day, but like perhaps send me a proposal.
You send him a deck. I know you got a deck already. Give him a deck.
That's right. That's right.
That's awesome. All right, Dan. Well, thanks so much for that. And you guys, you have a great holiday, huh?
Cool. Thanks, everyone.
Time with it. Okay.
I hope you all are doing something cool and fun.
All right, man. Take care. Hey, I want to let you guys know we've got Phylo here, Holger, and I wanted to give him just a little bit of time to kind of talk a little bit about where we are with the vote, because there's been a lot of stuff has happened. We're getting ready. So you still with me there, Holger?
Yes. I'm in the back. Yeah, if I can talk 5 minutes about the vote.
Yeah, please.
No, easy. So I think most of you have heard about that. We're trying to get this treasury vote off the ground, and we've been working actually on it now since 7 months. Yeah, so kind of there's quite a long time frame passing, and a kind of surprisingly long time that everything takes to discuss everything with everybody. Yeah, like always. But things are getting closer now. Actually, everything is ready. The only thing we're waiting for is Firefly, because we had definitely. I mean, I think this was in all of your interest to prioritize staking before voting for Firefly. Because kind of that's the bigger thing, even if voting is super important and the treasury will be playing a big role next year. So the Firefly team had now staking on the plate, and that worked great. And the cool thing is that most of the functionalities that we've used in staking, we will kind of nearly one-to-one use in voting. So because voting is technically the same thing as staking from the transaction perspective for Firefly, so it's not much of changes to happen. The only thing is we need to build a beautiful UI UX for voting in Firefly so that it looks great and feels great for all the voters. This is actually what's the only thing left to happen. Yeah, and we are of course now going on into holidays, but we have already kind of the UI UX flow very ready. The thing is, you always have to think through all the little edge cases and special cases. Same like with staking. Yeah, there's so many little points you have to be aware of if you build this. So give the Firefly team a bit of time, beginning of January, and then we are getting really close in being able to vote. We also kind of have this treasury website nearly ready to launch, which will be kind of the go-to information point for everyone that wants to know stuff about the vote. We have it all in GitHub and things, but we thought we really need a kind of a beautiful layout and a very informative one place for everyone to get all the information that is related to those tokens, related to the whole process that we've gone through the last 7 months. And so this website will hopefully launch this year. Yeah, we're kind of just building the last stuff for it. So then we will have already something where people can get information about the upcoming vote, and also something that we can start to share through the community, because it will take some time to reach everyone. Yeah, like all of you guys here have heard about it. The IOTA community is big, and we have people that are not really aware of stuff. See, now we have just 42% of the tokens staked. Yeah, in the moment, that's great already, but takes time to climb up to 60, maybe 70%, and voting will not even be so interesting for most of them. So if we want to get a big participation in the first vote, we will need to spend some time in marketing this whole thing and creating awareness outside of our core IOTA bubble, let's say it like this. But yeah, it looks all great. The Greg and his team have also done a great job because they are part of this project, and we are using parts of the Sooniverse technology on this website. Kind of this Sooniverse is going to be the tech behind displaying the vote, and so while the vote is ongoing, we will have the website that shows how many people have voted already, how many tokens are part of the vote, what is the current results, and things like this. And so that's great that we had such a great community engagement with Greg's team to build all the stuff that we need for this. Yeah, and so that's mainly what's going to happen.
Yeah, perfect, great, thank you for that. Yeah, one little exciting thing for us is that you'll see a tweet coming out from us in the next, maybe 24 hours. So I just showed it to Phylo, but yeah. So the on-tangle voting is already built, and we showed them a little video of that. So we're ready to go once Fireflies is ready to go. So, but that's also a new enhancement that you'll see when you look at this universe. But that was actually a big thing. So we're ready when everybody else is ready.
And the cool thing is now really also that we're gonna open the possibility for the community to use this functionality that we have been building now, like voting with your tokens on the Tangle. This is gonna be open for everyone, and Firefly will be ready to not only do this vote, we will implement a functionality in Firefly that can be used by Sooniverse or by any other group that wants to use IOTA tokens to vote with Firefly. Yeah, so Firefly will be able to add different votes to the Firefly and enable everybody to vote on all kind of things with the IOTA tokens. And there's going to be kind of a custom upload where you can actually enable different proposals there that are existing, and you have to use a different node, but all this stuff will be kind of automated. I'm sure Greg Sooniverse will leverage this and make this a part of the Sooniverse functionality. And so it's the cool thing. It's not stuff that is only built for this one vote. This stuff is going to be with us forever. Voting with your tokens on the Tangle using Firefly will always be an interesting thing for some decisions. Not for everything, maybe, but for some really, really big, groundbreaking decisions in IOTA's future. We will always have this functionality available, and if we have other big things to decide in the future, I'm sure the IF will put up some votes in the Tangle using this functionality. And so I'm really happy that we have been able to build this now and make it available for the community also.
Yeah, it's been great. Phylo's started this whole thing. I think when did we start in May or whatever? But it's been a long road. A lot of conversation.
Started 8th of May or something. I think we opened the governance channel in the Discord. So what the fuck? It's in the end. In the end, it's gonna be 1 year maybe until this treasury thing is live and we can use it. I would have expected it to be faster, but learning by doing how important it is to let everybody bring input. I mean, we had now, I don't know, 15, 18 governance meetings already, where all the time new members coming in, having new questions, bringing in new ideas, bringing in new input. And so it's a slowly moving train, but it's good that everybody is on board with this, and we didn't rush into something. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to finalize this stuff.
Yeah, we're getting close. And Adam Unchained has been amazing coding on this stuff. He's been a hero. So you bet. Okay, well, thank you for that. Moral of the story there is that January is going to be an exciting time. We're going to be able to start getting close to actually doing the vote, I think. So I would say that we're talking, I mean, probably February timeframe realistically to make it once everybody gets back and so forth. Maybe I would say that might be a target to shoot for.
No ETAs.
I know. It's a possibility within the realm of possibilities. Gotcha.
Absolutely.
Cool. I don't know if we, we're kind of going on an hour and a half. That's probably when everybody's going to turn into a pumpkin and probably wants to maybe get some eggnog or settle down for the evening. So I am going to say that this is probably a good time to end. And I would like to just thank all of you for spending the time with us and joining the Americas group. A lot of you guys have been with me since I started this, and I really appreciate that. It takes all of us to actually make this work. Dave has been a hero helping with me starting this, setting this up. Adam, thank you so much for doing that. And I want to wish all of you guys a wonderful holiday and a happy new year. And I think we'll call that a wrap. So,
well, thanks,
happy
Greg,
holidays.
Yeah, thanks, Greg, for organizing this and managing these events with Dave for several months. That you guys doing an amazing job. So thank you.
Yeah, right, an amazing job. Yes, happy holidays to everyone.
All right, you guys.
Yes.
You guys have a great one.
Greg. Yeah.
Okay.
Great holidays, everyone.
Bye,
Take care.
guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Happy
Thanks,
holidays.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Happy holidays.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
My damn ice cream.
Amazing.
And cheese.